What's up, Dragon Brood? We are on deck 7 of 10, I think is the count now. I'm trying to get through all 10 of these, but we are going over the free arena decks and doing budget upgrades for all of them. And I want to kind of point out to a couple of things here real quick before we continue with the video. But first, I have people saying, why aren't you playing games with the decks? Truthfully, there's two reasons. One, we already know that the upgraded version is going to be better than the previous version, so there's no point to really even go over that. The other is almost every one of these decks, we have some working version that's already built out with all the rares and everything else already here on the channel. So for instance, like today's deck is a Selesnya Lifegain deck. If you just search for Selsnya on the channel or Lifegain on the channel, you will find a deck that's already built out and you can watch those games. So I would just be adding extra time to the videos for no real reason. So that's why those aren't there. The other thing is I want to go ahead and ask if you could be so kind, please like this video, leave a comment, share the video with somebody who may need it, because these type of beginner videos get so many fewer views. That's why you don't see a lot of content creators do them. Matter of fact, my channel is going to get blasted for the next like 4 days, or the total of 4 days, while I'm putting up all these decks, because I'm not doing other like new flashy deck, creative, whatever content. This is here as a more of a community service more than anything else. So please help me out with that. Otherwise, yes, we're going to be talking about the Selesnya Lifegain deck, or they called it Lifeline, I believe is the title of this deck. So let's go ahead and hop into that deck list. Now the goal of this deck is going to be to 1, gain life, and 2, use that life gain to put counters on your creatures to make them hard to kill and make them bigger so you can blast your opponent. Pretty simple, but there's a few ways we can go about it. We'll see what's included in this list, and as always, we're going to go over these, what we like and don't like first, and then we'll do the upgrade and explain to you where we settled. So for starters, we are going to play Cleric class. This is an uncommon that's actually very good. Every time you gain a life, you get a bonus life. If you go to level 2, every time you gain life, you get to put a counter on something. And then level 3 lets you actually get something back, which is awesome. So we like everything about this. We're probably going to end up playing more of this one. Fortifying Draft, I guess. We don't really like this that much. Like, it's not bad. I mean, you gain life, and the creature gets bonus for that, but it's not really adding counters to your creature. It's more just a better attack bonus. But if your creature's just bigger, you don't really care about this. So it's flashy, but I'm not sure it's necessarily good. Revitalize isn't bad. Let you gain 3 life, draw a card. You can be used as a combat trick, I guess, and still get a card out of it, which is kind of nice. Story Seeker, 2/2 for 2. I actually don't mind Story Seeker. However, I believe there are more cards that are available to you in the 2 mana slot that we don't necessarily have to play this. Devouring Tendrils. This one's actually okay. You get to deal damage, you fight something, you gain 2. I'm kind of okay with it. It sucks that it's a sorcery, I will admit. If it was an instant speed spell, I'd be way about it. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Inscription of Abundance. This one I like just for the versatility, right? You can put counters, you can gain life, you can fight something. Or you could do all 3, and that's awesome too. But I will say, it is a rare, so we have to be very careful on what value are we getting out of our rares, so we may or may not include more of this one just yet. Prosperous Innkeeper, this is a no-brainer. If you're doing anything with creatures and trying to gain life, you go ahead and play a full set of this. Partly because it also makes treasure, so you can go from 2 mana to 4 mana and play your next biggest thing, and that's always a benefit to these type of decks too. Trellisera, also an uncommon, but a damn good one for this type of list. Every time you gain life, it gets bigger, and you get to scry your top card, which is great because it makes your next draws better. Or multiple draws, depending, you can scry down to the bottom multiple times. So yeah, big fan of this card. We have it in a couple of lists, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Celestial Unicorn. This one's funny, right? Because I don't really like this card being a 3 mana 3/2, but it's going to get bigger pretty quick. And it's kind of like you're on a budget, you know, and this is kind of one of those times where you say, well, we're on a budget. If we want the creatures that get bigger, this does exactly that, what we're trying to do. So it's probably going to make the cut. And they did include 3 in this list, which was nice. Core Celebrant. They also included 3 of this. So every time you play a creature, you get to gain a life. That does mean that if this is already out and you play a Celestial Unicorn or you play a Trellisera, they will come into play. This will trigger, and then they'll get a +1/+1 counter. So yeah, kind of got to do it. Minimus Containment, I've seen a few people try to play this card. I'm not necessarily in love with it. I mean, it stops anything on your opponent's side, but you do also slightly ramp them by giving them another mana, so like, we could probably do better if we really want removal. Righteous Valkyrie I really like, especially in this deck, because just about everything is going to be a cleric, except for, I believe, Celestial Unicorn when we're all done. So, yeah, this card's good. It is a rare, but it does fly and it pumps your team. So, yeah, we're about it. Lurking Roper. This is a 3-mana 4/5, which is actually kind of nice. It doesn't untap, but as you're gaining life, you get to untap it. So I don't hate this card, actually. It's pretty solid. But I think we could do better for what the deck's trying to do. They have Icing Death, which is just, it's a mythic, it's a flyer, it has vigilance, it can turn into an equipment that's really good. So yeah, we'll go ahead and give this a look. Accomplished Alchemist. We talked about this on my stream. I think this is one that's literally what you would call a trap. Mostly because it takes a while to cast, then you have to do something else, usually spending mana, to set this up to be able to use mana. So, I don't know. I'm not into it. I don't think this is the card this list wants. Then we have You Meet in a Tavern. It gives you two choices. You could either look at the top 5 cards and take the creatures and put them in your hand, or all your creatures get +2/+2 from a turn. Both of these are pretty good, so it might actually still make the cut. Pillar Drop Rescuer, it's a 5-mana 2/2. We just talked about this, I believe, in the deck from yesterday. Like, if you have a 5-mana 2/2, the ability needs to be great. This is just a 2/2 flyer, lets you get a 3-mana less thing back from your graveyard. I'm not about, didn't even put it into play, it puts it into your hand. So yeah, I'm not about this card. I'm not feeling it. Then we have Drizzt Do'Urden, good card. Doesn't particularly fit here because it doesn't gain life or anything else. It does give you 2 triggers, so both 2 creatures would come into play and you gain life twice. But if you have one of the other things that gains life, but that's about it. And then Valkyrie Harbinger, I don't mind this one because you're usually going to be able to gain life if you can get 4 per turn. This makes another 4/4 angel. It does have lifelink of its own, so if it does attack and connect, you're going to get a 4/4. I don't have a problem with this. I think this card's actually pretty good. And lands, 10 force, or 10 plains, 9 force, 4 Arctic Tree Line, 1 Branchloft Pathway. So that's it. Let's take a look at where we ended up and why we actually play those other cards. Okay, as we talked about, we are going to go ahead and play 4 Cleric class because this card is super good. No reason not to play it in this list. All 3 parts are very good for you. These next 2 cards, they are part of what we call the Arena Only set. There are some cards that they have left available in Arena, so when they make the beginner decks coming out of the tutorial, you'll still have these cards available, and you can use them in standard best of 1, not in best of 3. But a lot of people are just playing best of 1. Standard 2022 is best of 1, so these cards are legal for you to use. So Hallowed Priest, every time you gain life, you get a +1/+1, kind of like the Trellisera we talked about. And then Impassioned Orators, every time a creature comes into play, you get to gain a life, and it's a 2/2. So there you have something similar to Prosperous Innkeeper. And the reason we're doing this is you kind of get a lot of redundant effects. So the more you have, the more the deck kind of steamrolls. We did want to keep some removal, so we do have Devouring Tendrils still in here. We did add 1 rare in the Inscription of Abundance, so we went ahead and put that there. Went to a full set of Prosperous Innkeepers. We're playing 2 Ranger class. It does give creatures +1/+1, but it does allow you to play creatures off the top of your library late game, which is why we put this in here. So it does make a token. You can pump your creatures. But most importantly, if we can get to level 4 late in the game, it allows us to keep drawing creatures. Because our whole deck practically is creatures except for a handful of cards. So if you can do that, you get to kind of chain off a bunch of things. Which combined with Trellisera that lets you scry is actually really nice. So that's 3 rares total we're at there. Went up to 4 Trelliseras. Went ahead and maxed out the Selesnya Unicorns. So this actually gives us 10 creatures, or 11 creatures, so that can actually get bigger whenever you play or gain life. So that's pretty awesome. We left the core Celebrants. We spent, I believe, 3 rares here on the Righteous Valkyrie. So that brings us up to 5 rares. I believe my count is correct there. Yeah, up to 5, because we had an Inscription, 2 Ranger class, 3 Valkyries. So that's 5. We kept the 1 Icing Death. We kept the 1 Valkyrie Harbinger. And then we added 1 each of Cave of the Frost Dragon and Lair of the Hydra. So we can make sure we have other creatures. 1 that does fly and just gives us something in case our opponent sweeps the board. And then same thing on the Lair of the Hydra that's just really big. Because we have so many creatures, our decks on, well, because our deck's mostly creatures, board sweepers are going to be a problem for this deck. So that's another reason you want to have something like the Ranger class there to let you kind of rebuild really quickly. And then the same thing here with these creature lands, gives you the opportunity to still attack and do stuff after your creatures have been wiped out. That being said, I would still, if you have the resources, spend to do the swap on the lands here, get 4 pathways down to 1 tree line. I think that could be really good. I think you could also find space if you wanted to, say, like max out your Hallowed Priest, something like that. But the list is pretty tight as is right now. But if you like this style of deck, I think it's going to be pretty good for you. Again, if you can, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, support, do all that good stuff. And please, please, please check out my other videos in this series. I put them all into a playlist so you can see them all. Pass them along to anybody who needs some help or is interested in any of these decks. That is all I have for you for now. We will see you next time.